Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another English Wednesdays. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. We've got my friend and colleague Teresa Doguelli from Turkey, who will be with us this afternoon to talk about debate and how you can use it in the classroom. So I'll let her get started. And I'm going to be managing the slides for her. So once she's ready, we can get started. And then, Teresa, you simply tell me when you're ready to move on, and I'll move the slides. Okay. So here we go. Teresa?
Hi. So hello, everyone, and welcome. Yet again, for those who know me and those who are new to my style, hello, hello, hello. Today we're going to be looking at teaching debate skills to teens, and I hope that nobody does object. Okay, if we click to the next slide, Kaz. Yeah, it's just a little preview, and to the next one. This is what I'm planning to do today. These are the phases I'll be going through in this next hour. There are many different meanings, if you like, different connotations to the word debate, whether we talk about the noun form or the verb form. So I'm going to do a very quick overview of what debate is and how we can define it in different ways, be flexible with it. And then we're going to look at what skills can be developed using debate. Then we're going to look at helping learners to find something to say and to use deeper thinking skills and critical thinking skills to get their ideas together. Then we're going to be looking at how we can organize them into groups and actually optimize how they work together when they're debating or preparing for a debate. Then a few words I'll be saying on public speaking and how we can help learners and guide them. And then we'll finish off with the benefits. Hopefully you'll be telling me what you think the benefits are, and then I'll be sharing what I think with mine. And a few free resources for you as well. So off we go. If we move on to the next slide, Kaz, here's a quick question for you guys. You can put your answers in the chat box with a number. And I can't see the chat box, but maybe if Kaz can see it, then he can relay to me what people are saying. So the first question is, what, according to you, your understanding, what is a debate? Is it 1, a mental sport, 2, an academic activity, 3, a democratic tool, 4, an argument? So if you put your answer in the chat box, and if Kaz can see them, he can relay them to me. Are there any answers coming in yet, Kaz? If not, it doesn't matter. It's something for you to think about. I'll give you another half a minute to think about that. Any answers coming in, Kaz? Okay, well, for those who said 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it kind of is all of those things. And that's what we're going to look at today. So, yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4, sometimes in different ways. So let's go to the next slide, Kaz. And as you can see, there are many definitions here of an argument. or a debate, let me say. Sorry, I was concentrating on argument there, because one of the meanings of debate is having an argument, as we can see in that picture on the right at the bottom. People can debate things sometimes when they disagree with each other, but an argument can be a good, healthy one, or it can be an aggressive one. So we have to avoid the second one. A debate can also be a very, very formal procedure, as we can see in the top left picture, as the UK English Parliament, which we sometimes see on the news, they use a very formal procedure for debating. And there are, as you see, top right, on the right-hand side, the picture, there are university debates, which again follow a very, very formal structure. But there are sometimes political debates on television which don't follow that kind of structure. And you can see bottom right, a debate can just be a pros and cons discussion about whether they want to go camping, or whether they want to go in a mobile van. It can just be, you know, just deciding what are the pros, what are the cons, and so on. So those definitions open up a whole plethora of different types of debating and different definitions of debating, and I'll try to run through the first few very quickly, because I'm assuming that not all of you are considering doing the very, very formal version. Some of you might. So I'll be looking at, first of all, the classic version of debating, the formal procedures, and then we'll have a look at how we can adapt any of these to the classroom. So if we move to the next slide. So one of the questions at the beginning was, can it be a sport? It is a sport for some people, particularly, as I said, at universities. Universities compete against each other. They have debates, and as you can see here, the formal steps, more or less, is a topic is chosen, usually a kind of argument, like this house believes that YouTube videos are harmful for teenagers' health, and the opposing team would say YouTube videos are very beneficial for students' performance. And once these topics have been chosen, they're going to debate them in two teams. There's going to be an affirmative team and a negative team supporting the two statements that I just said. And so they usually have 3 speakers in each group. This is the classic version. And the first speaker of the affirmative group goes first. Then the negative group, the second speaker, goes next. He might rebut an argument and say, no, that's not true, because he may do this spontaneously, or he may just go through, or she may just go through what they have prepared beforehand. So they take it in turns, affirmative, negative, affirmative, negative, affirmative, negative. And they have time to prepare beforehand. They come very well prepared. Each speaker presents for a set, limited time, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And finally, the debate is judged. They actually have someone or a jury to judge. And there is often an audience present, because it's like a sport. Like any other sport, there's always spectators who enjoy watching a really good debate from the two teams. So if we move on to the next slide, Kaz, the judges judging the debate will be scoring the speakers and the teams overall for both the content, so what they say, their arguments and evidence that they provide, and the relevance of their arguments. They also judge the style and the manner in which the presenters speak, the language they use, the tone they use, and the way they interact with their audience. And they also judge strategy or method, the way that they've structured their topics into maybe subtopics, how they've organized it, and how they spontaneously have reacted to arguments from the other side. And sometimes there is a vote, the audience will vote. So this is your classic debate, and some schools might like to do that. So that would be the format for that. If we move to the next slide now. Some schools actually have their students join an MUN club, the Model United Nations, where they prepare the members of the MUN club for big conferences. So representatives from schools all over the world meet for conferences all over the world, and they basically they are doing an academic simulation. And this, so they are given a country, they are assigned a country. So let's say I'm going to MUN on behalf of my school, and they tell me, MUN will say, you're going to be representing Luxembourg. And so I have to, and they will also send me a real problem, a real issue to focus on. So I will have to put myself into the role of a leader in Luxembourg, looking at all the profile, the country profile, finding out as much as I can, because I will be simulating a real United Nations gathering, and I will be proposing some kind of action, and I will be opposing another team from another country who will be representing another country that the MUN sends. So, and then each debating team is also divided into little subgroups, subcommittees. So there might be a human rights committee who are looking at human rights in Luxembourg. Another one might be looking at different resolutions that have been passed in the past from Luxembourg. What has Luxembourg done so far? And the other team will be preparing ideas in their little committees, but working as a team to have their big debate at these conferences. So I don't know how many of you already send students to MUN. I know it's very popular here in Turkey. A lot of schools see it as a very prestigious thing, and they see it also as a very, very good training for their kids. And it really is. My own daughter started off as a member of the team, a speaker for the team, and she stayed with it for a couple of years. She went to many conferences all over the world. She was able to travel, and at the same time, she developed really high self-esteem, confidence, and became the chair of her team at the end of that experience. So it is a very formative experience, a very good one. However, we're going to look at slightly less formal classroom type of activities that we can do, because these preparation for MUN is heavy duty. And often, as I said, it it is done after school hours. Okay, moving to the next slide. So yeah, this is, I'm sharing this with you because this could be something that you wanted to maybe simplify and use a little bit to guide your students before they actually have a little classroom debate. So, you know, they need to research the background of the topic. They need to research perhaps past international actions that have taken place. They need to research their own country policy, maybe other countries' policies, and they also need to come up with possible solutions. Excuse me. They may look at previous solutions that have been carried out by various governments, NGOs, organizations, and they may come up with their own solutions to certain problems and maybe use that as the end result of their debate. They actually decide on some action that they can take in their own local community, perhaps. So it's a great basis for future project work. But in order to get to that point, they need to discuss and find out from a range of sources a lot of information. Okay, so that's really a great skill, teaching them how to research, where to research, and how to prepare for a topic. So we can steal that little bit if we want from the MUN copybook. And if we move to the next slide, Kaz. Yes, as I said, at the end, they will decide on a resolution or a decision to actually take some kind of action, which for our teens working on global citizenship, action, as you remember, is what we're striving to get students involved in order to, you know, work towards Agenda 2030 and to help with the Sustainable Development Goals and the global citizenship, which we want them to be active in. So a resolution at the end is made by both sides, both teams, and perhaps the whole class. Okay, so again, that's another thing that we can use from the Model United Nations and the United Nations copybook. Moving on quickly to the next slide. These are two really useful booklets. So for those of you who want to go for the more rigorous, academic, formal kind of debating, which you may want to, then these are two free guides for beginners, people who have never done this, something like this before. Two very, very useful guides. One comes out of MUN itself, and the other one from the SA. Reference there, I've put the two references there. So if you can access the links, you can download your own free guides, and they're very, very helpful for teachers in organizing a formal debate. Okay, moving on. Okay, now moving away from the classic formal procedures to the general kind of meaning of debate. We saw all the different kinds of meanings at the beginning. All debate really is a persuasive communication activity. So we're trying to persuade others that our arguments are right. We're trying to get people on board with our ideas. So moving on. What skills can be practiced and developed in the classroom? This was my sort of second step. It's interesting here because I got this off a blog which says 5 key skills for debating, but as you see in the little chart here, there are actually 7, and there are probably even more. But broad categories, and we'll be looking at classroom activities in a minute too, which will be involving all of these skills. An activity like a debate will involve all sorts of things. It will involve reading, it will involve reading and preparing, it will involve writing, it will involve speaking, it will involve the imagination, creativity. It will involve most of these, and also socio-emotional intelligence. That's another area that we're working on with our future global citizen teenage students to get them to be sensitive to other people's ideas, to be accepting of criticism, perhaps, to be accepting of other people's arguments, and to become much more tolerant and able to debate without anger, without any kind of bad reaction. So it's forming them in many, many different ways. There's listening skills involved, there's speaking, public speaking skills involved, there's empathy involved, so life skills and all kinds of academic skills, and just a whole myriad of things. So let's start looking at how we can approach it with the next slide. So again, there's a downloadable guide there, which tells us how actually debating, being able to debate successfully, has actually been added now to the Common European Framework. So that booklet contains all the additions to the CEFR, and there's lots of information there about all the additions, including debate. So debate is going to be part of all kinds of assessment, formal evaluation of students in the future. So it's going to be a very useful thing to work on with your classes, whether it's the formal type or whether it's the adapted, simplified versions. It's always going to be very, very useful for your students, both functioning at school, functioning at university effectively, and also later on in life, socially, and it will help them also to act, to try and make a better world. So let's have a look. Okay, so I think the first kind of problem, if we're doing it in class, and often many course books do include some kind of speaking or debating, as you see in the example here from Gateway to Success. There are sections in every unit which ask the students to debate, and they may be stimulated by a video. So this example here, it's a video that they're going to watch about tourism, mass tourism, and the effects of it. And they're being asked to kind of watch the video and then look at certain pros and cons of mass tourism. So they watch, they have a link there in the book, they go and watch the video, and then they make notes as they watch, and then they're going to talk about what they've understood, and they're going to start a debate. So this is one way of giving them information, because it's very difficult, as you know, when you ask students, come on, let's talk about blah, blah, blah. They need ideas. They need to think first. They need to be given some kind of stimulus and content. So sometimes it's a reading, text, and even better, a video like this. So the resources are here in Gateway to Success. And if we move on to the next slide, there are other ways in which we can also help students to prepare for their discussion, their debate. Excuse me. And the best way to prepare is in groups, not alone, because they need each other to bounce their ideas off. This is a very nice graphic organizer, which is very, very good for, first of all, getting students to think about questions and the answers to them. So one thing you could do in the class here is you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 question headers, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Whatever it is that you want them to think about, let's say mass tourism, as we saw in the previous example. So mass tourism would be something they're thinking about. Now, if you put them into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups, for example, or you can have, depending on how many you have in the class, you can have 2 groups working on one question word if you've got an extraordinary amount of students in your classes. And one group can work on questions beginning with who, again, regarding mass tourism. Group 2 can work on questions beginning with what. Group 3 can work on questions beginning with when. And so on. So another group works on questions beginning with where, another group questions beginning with why, another group working on questions beginning with how. Now they can write down the questions on big pieces of card. We can put them on the wall, and students can go and take a photo of them, or they can go around and look at them. And you could do a messenger dictation where one person from each group goes and gets other groups' questions and brings them back in their head and then dictates them to the group. So reading and dictating and writing. And so they end up, everybody has the same amount of questions. They can either all work on all the questions, or again, each group could stay just with their own questions and try to research and find the answers to their particular questions. And then together we could jigsaw those groups. So one person from each group could then meet. So all the number 1, 2, 3, 4 people in a group, all the ones get together, all the 2s get together, all the 3s, all the 4s, and then they share with each other the answers that they found to their own questions. There's lots of ways you can do this, but it really helps to get ideas flowing. So this is actually information gathering, getting ideas, and then they can work on going further with this debate later on, maybe summarizing what they found out and what they propose for future action. I hope that was clear, my explanation. Okay, if we move to the next slide, we'll see another activity. The University of Harvard has been working on something called Project Zero, and Project Zero was designed to come up with a whole bank. And when I say bank, I mean one of the biggest banks you can possibly imagine, of questions which, excuse me, which get students thinking beyond the surface, thinking deeper and deeper. This is a very simple one here. So, for example, the students are asked to debate on the subject of minimalism. They're looking here at a downsized little house, tiny home movement, and they just ask these 3 questions. So what do you see? What do you think? And what do you wonder? So just each student looks at this, then perhaps in small groups, they share. And again, that's another way of generating things that they might want to discover. What do you wonder? What's it like living in a house like this? Do you sometimes feel scared? How do they manage? What kind of gas do they use? Where do they get their water? Whatever, any questions that students may wonder, they share with their group, and then they perhaps all find the answer and then present to another group. Again, they're not necessarily debating, but they are getting ideas for a possible debate in the future about what action should be taken locally or perhaps globally about minimalizing our homes, our rooms, our cities, our streets, and so on. So again, it's a pre-debating way of getting them to think about something and giving them ideas. If we move on. Again, I think we're still on the subject of minimalism here. Another very nice tool that you can use with your students is what we call the KWL chart. A lot of you may be familiar with this. So getting students in groups to, first of all, write down in the first column, the K column, which stands for no, as in know, and they're going to just take notes. Maybe one secretary in the group can take notes, writing down everything that they know about minimalism or downsizing. And in the second column, they're going to, the W column, they're going to write down what they want to know. So questions that they might wonder about. And then they can watch the video to find the answers and perhaps look for other videos that can find the answer. So a little group mini project to get ideas and then write down what they've learned and present them to the class. And that could be this kind of basis for giving them enough information to later on debate what they're going to do and whose ideas are better or right. Okay, moving on. Pictures are a great stimulus. And again, with just going to quickly run through a couple of other different activities for thinking, enabling students to think in different ways from the Project Zero Harvard University archive. And that's also easily accessible. I'll look at it with you in a moment. But these are a couple of activities that they suggest. So getting students to look at a picture, whether it's tiny homes or whether it's mass tourism or whatever the topic is, and get them to, each student, first of all, thinks of a headline, maybe a newspaper headline. And then they share their newspaper headline, maybe with another partner, and then maybe with another pair, and snowball like that, a snowball discussion of the different kinds of headlines that they would put on this picture. And then after they've discussed the topic, read about the topic, researched the topic, we can ask them to then write another headline in the light of what they've now found out about this topic behind this picture. They're going to write a second headline, and just headlines often show how they're thinking or what they're thinking about this particular thing. And we've got a basis there for very good debates in the future. So those could be the topics for some of our debates, those headlines in the future. So again, a good starting point. Click. There should be another one coming up now, Kaz, after headlines. Just getting students to look at the picture 10 times and write down everything they see in the picture, and then look again and write down 10 more things that they see. And the closer they look, the more they will see, and the more they will see, the more ideas will be sparked, and they will start thinking of things to be discussed, to be debated, and that will be also a good source. Click. Another activity could be the 3-2-1 bridge, where they have to write down 3 thoughts, 2 questions, and can't see, it's too small at the moment because I'm looking at it on my phone. But as you can see, they write that down, and then later on, they come back to it and they write 2 more thoughts, or what their thoughts are now. This could be also pre and post a debate. So they're looking at a topic at the beginning, and we ask them, you know, what do they think? What do they feel? What questions they have? And then come back at the end and see if they have the same thoughts and the same questions. So also a nice little thing that we can integrate to encourage students to think more deeply. And the next one, Kaz, the 3 whys, great activity. So just, you know, keep asking why, and you know, why is it important for me? Why is this topic important for me? Why is mass tourism important for me? Why is it important for my local community? Why is it important for my country? Why is it important for the world? And just getting them to start thinking about this will also be a great basis for a debate. And if you click again, Kaz, there's also the 5 whys. So students might say that picture, people pollute beaches. And so then somebody in a group can say, why do they pollute beaches? And then everyone in the group has to say, well, they pollute beaches because they don't care. And the next question, why don't they care? They don't think about it. Why don't they think about it? Maybe they didn't learn about it in school. Why didn't they learn about it in school? And so on and so on. So if you keep asking the question why, you can really get students to think deeper and deeper and deeper. And that can be a very nice interactive activity in itself, a nice group activity to get lots of ideas together. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so all these different examples of activities which are different, I think will be very motivating for students, because they're very different ways of looking at pictures, looking at, you know, watching videos and thinking about topics to discuss, to debate, to get them thinking, to giving them ideas. This whole archive that I mentioned, Project Zero, Harvard University, they are, I've given you a reference on the slides, and or you can just Google Project Zero, Harvard University, and you'll find their archive. And if you keep clicking now, Kaz, you'll see there are multiple sections, and each of those little things in a black box are activities which are free for any teacher to use with their students. So if you keep clicking, so there's digging deeper, exploring, perspective taking. So if you want your students to empathize with other people and look at things from different perspectives, there's hundreds of activities there. And if you keep clicking, Kaz, yeah, controversies and dilemmas. So again, helping students to prepare a debate about a particular topic. Great ideas for stimulating that. Organizing ideas, which are obviously important before they actually discuss or debate, after they've got their ideas together. Lots of ideas there. Just keep going, Kaz, just keep going. Global thinking, again, classroom activities, very practical, very useful. You've got so many, you probably wouldn't be able to use them all. There's all sorts, looking at systems, looking at objects. Keep going, Kaz, keep going. Analogies, possibilities, looking at different objects. You could be looking at the trash on the beach and, you know, analyzing it, getting loads of ideas that you wouldn't have thought of doing before. Yeah, so they're all there for you, and plus the core thinking routines. Great. Now that's getting ideas. Once they've got a load of ideas, you might want them working together in groups, cooperating, sharing information, and simultaneously together coming up with the content of a great discussion in the future. And there are often questions that they have to answer. They're offered in the course book, things that they're asked to debate. So what do you think about this? What about this? What about this? Now, in order to be able to debate these things, they need to think about them, and they need to kind of listen to each other's ideas and bounce off each other. So this is a great activity here. Kagan, Spencer Kagan, is an American teacher, pedagogue, who came up with these different structures for getting students to work together in groups productively, simultaneously, and where everyone has a different role or a different responsibility very often. And it definitely makes students very, very active. So here's one example. Put the students into groups of 4 or 5, depending on the numbers. Each person chooses a number for themselves for that day. And you can announce that the first number ones are the question reader. So looking in the course book or looking at a worksheet and reading the questions out to the group, and the group will be all answering, maybe one by one. One of the group will, number 2, will be the secretary, so writing down, as well as giving their own idea, also making a note of what everybody says to keep a note. Number 3 in each group could be the timekeeper, because obviously students are usually given a time limit to have a little discussion. Or they could also be a noise controller, because sometimes the noise levels can get out of control if you've got a class of students who are all happily talking in different groups at the same time. So number 3 could also be the noise controller. So they're making sure that their group is not making too much noise. And if they are, you can just go to the number 3 and say, hey, you know, quieten your group down. The number 4 in each group can be the hand up person who puts the hand up as soon as they finish, and they could be the presenter of all the ideas from the group, which the secretary wrote down. And if you have 5 in your group, one of them could be an encourager, just saying, yeah, great idea, well done, high five. Or they could be the Googler, looking up things which on their phone, if they have a phone in the class, if they're allowed to. Or they could be Googling on the class computer, if there is one there, and finding out anything that the group wants to find out immediately in order to answer a question. So that way, everybody in the group is discussing, but everybody also has an additional responsibility, and it works very, very well. Okay, if we move on to have a look at a few other examples, that one, that first one is one version of numbered heads together. That's what it's called. And another version of numbered heads together is where you ask students to, first of all, discuss a particular topic, like minimalism or whatever. And then, again, you have, it's good if you can have a secretary writing down the ideas, encourager, noise controller, blah, blah, blah. So you can still have the roles if you want. And then when they finished, instead of only number 4 being the hand up, we finished, and the presenter, you can say, can all the number 3s stand up? So nobody knows what number you're going to call out. Maybe you don't know what number you're going to call out. And all the number 3s have to stand up in each group. And you get from each a very short presentation of what they discussed. And the notes, the secretary has the notes, they can use the notes. So that's kind of a nice preparation, a mini preparation for a debate for the future. And the other idea there is, it's called the round table or the circle of knowledge, where, let's say, like the committees in MUN, each student could be allotted a different aspect of the topic to look at, like, let's say, mass tourism and the economy, mass tourism and the planet, mass tourism and people's mental health. So you could give them each a subtopic, and on one piece of paper or one piece of card on the table, each student writes ideas about their topic, and the piece of paper can either stay in the center and they can all write simultaneously on different parts of it, like a little poster, and then they will have their ideas on a poster and they can share it with the other groups. So it's very cooperative, and this kind of teamwork is also excellent practice for, you know, 21st century skills, working in teams, working in groups, accountability to the group, responsibility to the group, everybody having their own responsibility. This is excellent preparation for life, and works as well, very well, in the debate way, in where if they have a debate, different people could be focusing on different aspects that they're going to talk about. So it doesn't have to be one person presenting all the time. You can have different members of different teams or groups presenting different things. Okay, if we move on, this is also a nice idea, which I kind of mentioned before, but didn't go into details. Again, you could have a look at the questions that the students are asked to think about and put them into pairs. A's will ask B's the questions. B's will ask A's the same questions. Listen carefully and retain the information. Then two pairs will get together to make a 4, and student A will have to tell the other two, the new pair, what student B told him or her. And student B has to tell the others what student A told him. So not only are they kind of interviewing each other about their ideas, they also have to listen very carefully, remember, and then present the other person's ideas. So it's also looking at other people's perspectives, but it also really gets the students listening to each other. And they love listening to their partner telling the other pair about what they answered, just to see if their partner really was listening and really remembers. So they're really kind of motivated by this kind of activity. Okay, so if you click, again, I won't go into too much detail here, but this kind of activity really gets like 50% of the class working simultaneously. Group work gets about 25% of the class working simultaneously, and whole class work only gets about 25% or even less of students working at the same time, even less than that. So these techniques, these methods, and again, there's a whole archive of them on Kagan online, the website. You can find a lot. They have books on it. They have lots of materials that they actually sell online, but you can get ideas without buying anything and implement them. And I think they'll work very, very well, and your students will enjoy them. And more people will be involved in active talking, sharing ideas, and preparing for debate later on. Okay, moving on. Yeah, these are just, again, other alternative ways. A rally robin, that was where they take it in turns to answer the questions. So if there's a list of questions, working in pairs, A will ask the first question from B, B will ask the second question from A, and so they have equal participation. A round robin is where they work in a group, and kind of the question is asked and then they all give an answer. And also you can have a both record rally robin where A asks B a question, B answers, they both write down the answer, and then B asks A a question, A answers, and they both write down the question. So as you can see, there's a lot of skills as well in this getting ideas, these are like kind of mini debates, if you like, or they can just be preparation for bigger debates if you want to do them in class. Okay, moving on. Yeah, later on, whether sometimes students are, as you see on the left, sometimes the course book, like Gateway for Success, will give them some propositions, some controversial statements to debate. Sometimes it will indicate, you know, that they should work in 2 teams, or that they should work in groups, or that they should work in pairs. But eventually, what we want them in their preparation together is to structure an argument. So all this getting of ideas we've talked about then need to be structured. So they need to think about, first of all, what are we saying? What's our point? What main point are we making? What do we believe in? And how are we going to back that up? How are we going to support it with evidence? So it needs a lot of research. So they need to have figures, statistics. They need to go to Wikipedia or whatever the sort of good old resources are, NGOs, MUN, UN, and find the necessary evidence, and then also be ready at the end to conclude with proposed solutions, proposed importance of what they're saying and the figures that they've got together. And you can get people to vote for the best ones and maybe use those as action points for the future through projects. So once they've got all their ideas together, they need to structure them. Once they've got their ideas together, no, lovely, Kaz, so you can move on. We also need to work on the public speaking skills a little bit, help them with that. And again, Gateway to Success and most course books nowadays do actually have whole units on presentation skills. Those are also in the CEFR, and also very important skills for work, for study, for anything at all. So, you know, again, they can watch a video on it if the course book has one. They can find videos on it on YouTube. We can find them and share it with them. It can be part of their language learning experience, as it often is. It's often a separate topic, a separate unit, and they can be practicing their English grammar, their English vocabulary, but the topic can be public speaking. So they're looking at something that's very important in preparing them for life and presenting and speaking. Okay. And there are, again, lots of other tips and techniques, but some of the best ones, I think, are give this list to students and get them to try and integrate this in their presentations, in their sort of mini debates in class. For example, starting off with a question, which is very dramatic and hooks your audience. So how would you feel if you went down for a nice picnic on the beach and it was covered with pieces of glass, with broken glass, with old plastic bags, with old shoes? How would you feel? Great to start a debate with a question like that. Telling a story. So instead of coming out with a proposition, starting with a story. So once upon, well, not once upon a time, it's not going to be a fairy story, it's going to be a real life story. So there was a young girl in a different country from us who really loved learning. Children all love learning, and she loved learning just like her brothers and her sisters and her friends, and she used to go to school really happily. And as she got a bit older, these men kept appearing in the road as she was going to school, and they were asking her, "Where are you going?" And she said, "To school." "Why are you going to school?" "Because I love learning." And they would say, "Go home." And she said, "I don't want to go home. I want to go to school." And she would go to school. And this went on for quite some time. And one day, one of the men took out a gun and shot her in the head. She was rushed to hospital. She was flown to England, where she had a bullet removed from her brain. And she then became a very famous activist. Do you know who I'm talking about? And the topic is education. She's an activist for education. You would ask your students to guess. If I had a chat box, I'm sure you could all write down. And when Kaz clicks again, we'll all see who it was. Yeah? This was the story, brief story of Malala. A true story, of course. And this would be a great beginning, powerful beginning to any kind of debate about education or how our schools should change or how attitudes should change, etc. Body language, very important too. Sorry, we're going back a little bit, but that's the last slide. Yeah. Body language, very important. That's something worth working on with students. They could work on it with a buddy and get feedback from each other about how they could maybe loosen up, maybe use their arms, use their hands for dramatic effect, not too much, not too little. How they could use the 5 senses when they're talking, you know, that engages the audience a lot too and helps them to understand a situation better. So use the 5 senses when you're talking about, let's say, pollution. And recreate for the audience people, places, events through words, using those 5 senses, and make the things that you're talking about as rich as possible so that you become more persuasive. And this is a great skill. So those are things you can work on step by step to prepare your students to become better and better discussers and debaters and thinkers and speakers. Okay, last slide. So the benefits. The benefits. Again, I wish you could tell me what you think the benefits are, but the benefits that other teachers have found are listed here. They definitely improve critical thinking skills. They help learners to research better and to research critically, and to listen to each other, to take notes, and kind of be prepared, predict arguments that are going to come from the other side. So always thinking ahead what they need to prepare. It helps them to identify gaps in existing theories or ideas or articles or action on the planet. And it helps them to also control, manage their thoughts, their emotions, their beliefs, and become very flexible people with a growth mindset. And finally, debating provides constructive ways of learning and educating. many people, so they can be learning themselves and educating others in their class, their peers, in their home, their family, their neighbors, and other people. So enjoy, whether you do the full formal debate or whether you do little debates do try some of these activities if you haven't. The Kagan structures for organizing discussions and the visible thinking routines for thinking deeper, more critically, more empathetically, etc. And I'm sure that everyone will benefit. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you for being here with me today. Hope it was useful.
So yeah, thank you, Teresa. Thanks, everyone. I'm afraid we have run out of time. So you should be able to receive these slides, and you'll also be receiving the certificate as well. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye.